I welcome to Test Talk, TEST, Tertiary Education Skills Training. Tonight we have a show with a little bit of a difference. We keep talking about Test Talk being about what your children do after secondary school. What are the options? What are the opportunities? Well, I have an old friend from many days, many years ago, Professor Clement Sankat, familiarly known as Clem, who is the principal of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, and Vice Chancellor.
Pro-Vice Chancellor.
Pro-Vice Chancellor. And Professor Sankat and I go back to Canada Hall and UWI in a traumatic year, 1969-70.
Yeah.
Clem, you've come a very long way since then, boy.
Yeah. Well, let me say, Tony, and to all our listeners, good evening, and what a pleasure it is to come here and talk to you. And you used the word just now, which is a Guyanese word. You don't often hear it in Trinidad, that we can gaff a little bit.
That's
we could talk a little bit. We could have a conversation. But it's great to be in your company. Great to be, because we go back a long time.
Clem, I mean, what was it? I'm not sure how many people remember 69-70. Well, it was a traumatic year for the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. You stayed on. I went on to Canada to Carleton, but you stayed on. What was it like subsequently, those ensuing years, when you completed your degree in engineering and all the other things?
Well, I don't know if you know, Tony, we started in 69, and I spent all my life at UWI, boy. Except for 3 years, just like you, I went to Canada to do my PhD at Guelph in 75 to 78. All the rest of my time is St. Augustine, barring a little short period in Guyana in the Burnham period that really threw me off. You know, I think 69-70, for me, a couple of things. You see, when you come to one of these Caribbean islands from Guyana, Guyana is a kind of an outlier in the Caribbean. Granted, we play cricket and all of that, but Guyana is a kind of a mainland country, and you don't really understand or appreciate a small island environment and being a part of a Caribbean island environment. So for me, coming to University of West Indies at St. Augustine, and particularly Canada Hall, truly raised my knowledge, my awareness, my consciousness of being a part of a Caribbean community and a Caribbean future and destiny. I always felt that there was something special about this place, and we could take it somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was one element coming out of a Guyana experience.
Okay.
Becoming more Caribbean. And the second thing I think also happened in that time was, I think, the university and all the elements of the actions that happened in 69-70. There was more of a sense of belonging and ownership, a kind of opening of the university. You know, it wasn't this ivory tower thing, as much as it still was in those early days, but it became much more connected to people, community. It was the beginning of something special. And I commend my colleagues who led some of that.
Well, part of it, to remember when it was Guyana's the Republic anniversary, and I called Forbes Burnham and asked him if he could send a plane for you guys.
Yes, and he did.
Yeah,
you remember?
Yeah.
One of those beef planes, the DC-3 planes.
Yeah, Pim Zivera, father was chairman of the Guyana Airlines at the time.
That's correct.
And I was stunned that the president would speak to me.
Right.
Secondly, agree so quickly that his boys from Trinidad would get home for the anniversary.
Yes, but I think one of the things about Forbes was that he wanted to encourage a Caribbeanness in Guyana. He wanted to encourage people from the Caribbean to come to Guyana.
Yep.
But you remember that issue. I went home with that plane. It took almost an hour and a half to get or 2 hours from to Georgetown.
Yeah, but you know, the thing I found then, like you, I was from Trinidad, deep south. UE was an option. But Canada Hall was an interesting, as you say, melting pot.
Absolutely.
And for a Trinidadian in Canada Hall, it was a totally different experience for me. I know how, I'm not sure how you felt about the level of camaraderie in some ways and competition in other ways.
Yeah, well, let me say you know, when we came into Canada Hall, and you didn't really feel that you had belonged to this West Indian community, there were clearly, you know, you're not sure, and there were little tensions here and there among people with different backgrounds, etc. But the one thing that, Tony, that brought us all, made us, that leveled the place, was the grubbing. For all that we complain about it, was the grubbing. And I tell you, you remember Alan Sears? Yeah. And I remember the grubbing. Alan came from Guyana. He was before me. So the fellas, Alan did something, and they tell him to sing a song or something when he come in. And I remember what Alan did. Alan tell the fellas, like he's spinning a record, and he ain't saying a word. The fellas ask him, well, but you ain't singing, man. He said, boy, that is the song The Silence. And you know the wetting. But there was a leveling in Canada Hall. And I think that made us feel, well, there was equal. It took away the inhibitions because they made you do all kinds of things.
I can remember some of them very well.
But still. Tony, I wouldn't trade it. We had the greatest friendships were built in residence. You became hall chairman, so you know this better than all of us.
I was known as poet.
Poet, yes. Because Canada Hall was really engineers and agriculturalists. You people were the exception.
I was a serious exception because there's first of all, few Trinidadians become hall chairman. And then secondly, few first-year people become hall chairman. But it was, for me, a matter of pride. And looking back at it with, say, Carl Blackwood being in there, and at the time, Geddes Granger,
Tony
Winston
Patty,
Murray. It was a different experience. Andy Mack, one of your countrymen.
Andy, and of course,
who rose to prominence here in Trinidad.
Here in Trinidad, did very well, NGC. No, it was a great time and a great opportunity for that group of West Indians to begin to think about a kind of a West Indian future. You know, we began to put our own nationalities behind us, and we really began to think as West Indians.
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing. I ended up working for PAHO, for the World Bank in the Caribbean, partly CARICOM, for the cricket board.
Well, look at that. You see, there's something in there.
My wife is Guyanese, I'm Trinidadian, my children were born in Barbados. My daughter and son swam for Antigua, my son still plays cricket for the Leeward Islands. So I tell people, you know, up to today I was telling my staff, I'm a West Indian national, a Trinidad citizen, and whatever my descent, whether Indian or African or whatever, is a distant third in many ways in my reckoning about life and how people live, you know?
Yeah, I think I could share those same sentiments. I'm much like that. And I think I'm more West Indian than either Guyanese or Trinidadian.
But St. Augustine is an interesting thing because it is part of the University of the West Indies. And yet it continues to have a different vibe, if you want to call it that, a difference. You come in there, it's different. To what extent has that changed over the years, Clem?
Well, St. Augustine has changed in a dramatic way from our time. I think we were at St. Augustine at a very special time. We were at St. Augustine when, if you really think, it was the formative years of the campus. We were there when this campus really began. This campus began in 1960.
That's true.
By 69, we were students.
Yeah.
And it was truly a West Indian campus.
Yeah.
When I was in engineering, Tony, most of the students in my class were from Jamaica.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right? And that continued for many, many years after. And there were Bajans, St. Lucians, and they come from all over, Guyanese too in plenty. The difference today, and that is, it's a sad reality. We might have been 2,000 students maximum of those days, 2,000 students. Now we have 19,000 students.
Wow.
But the vast majority, I talk about 95%, 95%, are Trinidadians. So the campus has become much more reflective of the society. Whereas in my time and your time, it was more of a West Indian reality. And one of the sad things is that the Trinidadian and Tobago students still tend to be more commuting students. They still tend to live on the outskirts of the campus as opposed to the residences, etc. But we need to build more residences to have them there. But the complexion of the campus has changed. But we have to also recognize that Trinidad and Tobago, compared to Mona or compared to Cave Hill, it's different. We're different. There's a different complexity about our, and different. There's more diversity in our environment.
Well, that's an interesting thing because the research shows that the greater the diversity, the more the tendency towards innovation and creativity. And that has borne out, to my sense, in Trinidad, where you have a country that, because of its diversity of race, of religion, of communities, of history, has influenced the culture of the world way beyond the size of its population or resources. And that can't be accidental, You know, that cannot be accidental. And you've been part of that transition because you've been taking care of that diversity and channeling it into productive professional areas.
Yes, I think the diversity also creates a kind of a quiet competitiveness among people.
Yeah.
All want to do well, but want to do better than others. All want to rise to the top. And I think you're right. It helps, but it also comes back to people's backgrounds and their values, their aspirations, I don't think it's not known that while Guyana, for example, is not currently a part of the UWI, but was a founding member of the UWI. When Guyanese went to UWI at the beginning, they were all very outstanding. I mean, it's legendary about what they did in medicine at Bona. Very legendary. And I think it was driven background, a hunger for education, coming out of poverty, and understanding that, people talk about education today as a panacea for taking countries out of underdevelopment to development. But Tony, we knew that since when we were kids growing up. Our parents told us that in the 50s and the 60s, that son, the only way you get out of this is to go to school.
Yes, that is true.
And then they also made tremendous sacrifices to send us to high school and then university, and
I want to develop that, Clem. I want to take a break now. I want to remind the audience that we're going live on the phones. Talk to us. This is a live show in any case, but on the phones. We're opening the phone lines. Call us at 675-8747, 675-8749. Join us on Test Talk. Let's talk about UWI St. Augustine. Where it is, well, we've just talked about where it came from, where it is now, and where we're going. Thank you all very much. Back. Hi, thank you very much. Welcome back to Test Talk. My guest is Professor Clement Sankat, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal at UWI St. Augustine. Our telephone lines are open. You can call us at 675-8747 or 675-8749. We were talking about UWI St. Augustine, what it was like in our day. We go back now for almost 46 years. We have a caller on the line. Please, welcome.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good
yes, a very good show. Professor Sankat, I think it is?
Yes.
Yes, I'm hearing.
Yes, I think that we are sort of intellectually bankrupt in our time, in this time. Because I'm from your era. I'm from the old time days.
Okay.
And I found that years ago, when you come out of university, somehow you were a great thinker. But like now we have great students or good students, the students might be bright, but it's like thinking, beyond what they learn is kind of, to me, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I find so that we don't have the people, something is missing.
Yeah. That's an interesting
I don't know if
thing.
you agree with me.
Well, I think you're making a very interesting observation and a critical one for an educator, because we are very driven to ensure that when we graduate our students that they are really critical thinkers, creative thinkers, and problem solvers. We truly want them to be in that mold, and if they are not succeeding as well as you're mentioning, then we have work to do. And again, it speaks to how we engage the students in this whole process of teaching and learning and the curriculum. You're right, we have great students that come into the university systems. We also have great graduates leaving the university system. One thing that you must remember is today at St. Augustine, we graduate more than 4,000 students. And you will have a diversity that comes out of an institution like this. But I am very confident that the quality in terms of the ability of our students to be creative and innovative and to be critically thinking students or graduates, that in a vast body of them you would find that. We need to challenge them more, but I also do believe that the curriculum and the manner in which we engage our students within the program, we always have to be innovative there and creative there to ensure that we get our students thinking of things, thinking of how to solve problems, becoming much more aware, for example, of the environment in which we live and how you can change it for better.
I like that. I wanted to comment on it, but we have another caller. Caller, please.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes, it's the same caller. Thanks very much for answering my question. But I agree with you, but I am looking at where are they in society, like how we are not seen coming out, like how we knew Gaddis Granger and Kafra and this and you all and you told me they are, you know, like how you see them doing things in society, in like their home or the community, or because of how they're thinking. You say there's a lot, but probably there's a lot, but they need to get up and do something for the country, you know. And well, I'm listening.
I want to make a point here too. I believe right now, Clem, we're concentrating too much on giving people a schooling rather than an education. Mm-hmm. It is a point I have made about UE that we concentrate too much on the final year exams and not in the process of education.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we're changing that, Tony. When me and you went to school, first of all, we had literally one exam in June, May, June. We started in October. We had one exam in May, June. We did 5-6 courses. We had 5 exams when the poo bloom, and we gone with business after that. Not anymore. University has changed. We've gone in the semester system. And now, much of the assessment of students is done within the classroom environment through coursework assignments, quizzes, projects, and the old days of the exam counting for 100% gone.
Yeah, but Clem, the lady has made a point.
Yeah.
Which is the point of converting information into knowledge.
Yes.
And the test of knowledge being the application.
Absolutely.
And her point is that we may go there with the degrees and things, but the application as good citizens, as solid professionals, that seems to be missing. The link between the ivory tower and the street and the communities.
Well, let me throw this out to you, Tony, and to the caller. She mentioned Gaddis Granger and 1 or 2 of those names. When we speak of those names, we're conjuring a level of radicalism and possibly destructive thinking at that time.
Yeah.
So I want to put that in one corner. But I want to put to her that if you look at Trinidad and Tobago today and look at who are the leaders in our societies in every profession, and it goes right up to our Prime Minister, by the way, the Honorable Persad-Bissessar, and to our Minister of Tertiary Education, in fact, Honorable Fazal Karim, to the opposition leader, Keith Rowley, to yourself, Tony. When you look at the professions, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in agriculture, look at Trinidad and Tobago and its oil and gas wealth, and look at the people who are leading those industries. Today, we just talked about Petrotrin, Khalid. He came a little bit after me.
Yeah.
You mentioned McIntosh.
Yeah.
McIntosh was the head of NGC until very recently. These people are the ones who
I first met him in Canada Hall leading a raid.
That's correct.
For female underwear at
what we call
Hall.
Yeah. So the caller should understand that we have in our society today UWI graduates in education, in politics, in the foreign services, all UE graduates. But what I suspect you want to hear is the UWI graduates taking on a more radical look at things and how we develop our societies.
Okay,
and that brings us to the forum for the Caribbean we had the other day.
I have a caller. Caller, welcome.
Yes, hi, it's me again.
That's all right. You're welcome.
Yes, but I agree with you, Professor. But what I'm saying, those people are all the people who you're calling. I am talking about where's the 24-year-old person like Kamala, like the Prime Minister. They are reached there. But I'm talking about a young, like Patrick Manning was in 24 years and was in, 25 years or whatever it is, and he was in Parliament or sitting down saying something loud and clear. But I'm not talking about the old sages. Tony, you're a young age, right? And that's I think through Tony. I know you're young.
let me respond to the caller here. There are young ones coming up.
Yeah, but
You have to. There's a process of growth from the university. When you leave the university, you know, as you say, you book smart.
Yeah, book smart.
But people have to grow and develop and evolve.
Yeah, grow and develop in somewhere. I mean, they don't have to sit down fertilizing in a pot. Well, anyway, it's very good. I'm listening. I like the program, and thanks very much.
Thank you very much. And if anybody else wants to call, 675-8747, 675-8747. But probably the point is, I think what has changed in UWI, and let's look at the present, and what has changed since those 69 days,
yeah.
And what does it mean? It's not just a change, but what does it mean?
Well, what has changed in a dramatic way and is what we call in global parlance the massification of universities.
Okay.
It is not unique to Trinidad or the Caribbean. It's globally what has happened. There has been much more emphasis, much more investment and support for students to move beyond primary into secondary and then into tertiary education. Governments have demanded that and have supported that. Parents want that for their children, and the children themselves want that. Because we all understand that education, and education in its fullest dimensions, can be a great catalyst for development. So we want our people to be well trained and to put them through as much education as they can. So you have that. But once you have an opening of the doors of the institution, you move away from that elitism. When UWI was taking the cream of the crop. When me and you graduated at UWI, my class in mechanical engineering was 20.
Yeah.
For the entire region, Tony, 20 students, and probably 10 of them were Trinidadians. Today, that same mechanical engineering class at UWI is 120. Many of them are Trinidadians. We are now graduating 4,200. So we are producing many, many more graduates for the workforce in a much more diversified skills and knowledge and experiences and disciplines than ever before. St. Augustine today has 7 faculties, the largest among any of the campuses, the law being the most recent. But we are producing graduates in almost any discipline you can think of in a decent university around the world. So, put it away, what has changed? The university is giving opportunities to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and the region, opportunities which me and you and our brothers and sisters or our cousins and neighbors would not have had, because it was too closed. It was for the real elite, the elite of the elite. Now, that doesn't mean that UWI doesn't take in the best. We still attract some of the best, the brightest. You look at the numbers of national scholars, and the government has been increasing those numbers. 60 to 70% come to UWI, but they come in very special areas. Some of the areas that they all want to come in would be, of course, engineering, medicine, and law. And you know, there's a fixation in our parts of the world about these kinds of professions. And whenever I get an opportunity, I try to tell people we're living in a different world with new demands.
Hold that thought a minute. We have another caller,
Yeah, okay.
and this has been fun. Hi, hello, good evening.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm trying to find out something from the professor.
Sure.
I know that we have the UE and where we have people doing medicine, right? Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if they have any influence in having a medical school or support in San Fernando, if that could be done.
Well, I'm so pleased with that caller. Mr. Caller, one of my vision as principal, in the same way that we have Mount Hope anchoring medical education in the north of Trinidad, I would love to happen very quickly another hub for medical education built around the new campus in Pinal de Bay, the San Fernando General Hospital, and the new San Fernando Teaching and Learning Hospital, and of course the Couva Children's Hospital. We can create a wonderful hub for bringing world-class medical education and possibly medical tourism education into that part of Trinidad and Tobago, and for the benefit of our whole country. Just to tell you, we expect to be in the new Teaching and Learning Hospital in San Fernando in the next few weeks. My understanding is it's going to be opened on the 9th by our Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Tertiary Education. We will be there. 2 floors were created for the St. Augustine campus of the UWI. We worked with the architects at UDCOT from day one. It's a state-of-the-art facility, medicine with European standards. We want to be there, and we want our students to have that experience. So it's a dream that I have to build a medical educational research complex in that southern environment, taking into account these new entities that are coming on board.
Well, that's interesting. Our caller from Rosilac could drive along the new highway to San Fernando. Yeah. I was impressed by that facility, though. I went up there to see one of the ministers.
Yeah.
And it is really very impressive. But it is only one part of the UE story. What else has changed?
Well, I think the first thing that I want to say is that the St. Augustine campus has really opened itself to students from across Trinidad and Tobago. You know, there was a time when we were there. The students came from what we call the prestige schools. Mm-hmm. Port of Spain, and a few from San Fernando.
So you had guys like Michael Patty.
Yeah.
You had a few of the presentation
QRC,
boys. Yeah.
Fatima, that's where it was.
Yeah.
And a few from the south, not too many. That has changed in a dramatic way. Today, when I look at where the students from St. Augustine come from, they come from every nook and cranny of Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm so proud of that. And the point I want to make is that, you know, Trinidad and Tobago has invested in education since independence. Yeah. And it is paying some rich dividends, primary, secondary, and tertiary. One of the differences in Trinidad and Tobago is because we built the secondary school system so very well, it has become a great feeder for university education. Many of the Caribbean islands do not have that. It is not strong. Yeah. And so even if you have a university or campus, you may not have the kinds of students that are ready for that. Yeah. So I have to give credit to Trinidad and Tobago. And by the way, they were doing that in Guyana until Burnham came and mashed it all up. So, but they're now rebuilding it. Right. So that's changed. The demographics, where the students come from. In fact, when we looked at the possibilities of building the South Campus, we found out that more than 40% of the students were coming from Central South.
Yep.
And that was an imperative.
No, that seems to me to be part of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It really is interesting to me. I mean, I was in Antigua, so I don't know much. When I came in here and I went on the campus to see all the changes, it's...
And the other thing, Tony, is the diversity of the offerings.
Right.
When we were there, was a handful.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, today everybody knows about law and all of that, but even if you look at engineering, when I was a student, it was mechanical, civil, electrical, and chemical.
Chemical, yeah.
Well, let me tell you how it's changed.
Yeah.
It's all of that, industrial engineering, agricultural engineering, food science and technology,
Right.
geomatics or surveying, engineering management, production management, asset management, and then you have all these graduate
Then you have all the
programs,
petroleum engineering.
petroleum engineering,
Yep.
reservoir engineering,
Yep, yep.
petroleum geoscience. And you can grow across the faculties in the social sciences and see the diversity of the programs. So we have really widened the opportunities for producing graduates to meet particularly disciplinary challenges and disciplinary needs for our society. And the other big thing about St. Augustine, bigger than any other campus. Today, Tony, people don't know this. 1 in every 1/3, 1 in every 3 students. Yes, 1 in every student is a postgraduate student.
Okay.
Look at that. We have 12,000 undergraduate students, 12, 13.
Yeah.
We have 6,000 postgraduate students.
Wow, that's more like 50% actually.
Well, don't know whether it's about 50% of the undergraduate.
Yeah.
A few years ago, it was 1 in 4. And when we were students, we never even talked about that.
No.
St. Augustine is becoming more and more a postgraduate environment. And of course, last year, we also had about 37 PhDs among that postgraduate group, about 20 DMs, which are specialists in medicine, a number of MPhils, and we want to grow that.
Yeah.
Because these are the people, as the lady said, the caller, who are going to replace us. The thinkers, the real high-powered thinkers, critical thinkers, the ones who are going to bring a lot of change to society.
Tom, I just want to remind people again that if you want to be part of the show, call us on 675-8747 or 675-8749. Let's go back though. What about the arts and the culture? Because this is what Trinidad and the Caribbean are about too. It's not just science and engineering. You know.
Absolutely. Now, we have done some tremendous things at St. Augustine. Since the 90s, we have the history and the literature and the languages, French and Spanish, and we keep these things. And I wouldn't say they're growing in leaps and bounds, because there's a predominance at St. Augustine on science and technology and medicine. But we have kept the humanities, the education. But I'm really proud of our Department of Creative and Festival Arts.
Okay.
Which is...
What does it do?
Well, you even know where it is. In Gordon Street. It's not on the main campus.
I didn't know.
It's mainly on Gordon Street.
Right.
And I am so proud of the work they do. They are in the fine arts. They are in the theater arts. They are in dance. They are in drama. Pan, music. Just a couple of weeks ago, they really, the students there are not, while they have an academic grounding, they become very proficient at some area of the arts. And you know, we talk about entrepreneurship at UWI and from universities. Some of the best entrepreneurs that we create are coming from the Department of Creative and Festival Arts. Look, we have a film program. These are young people who, when they graduate, they're not necessarily looking for a job. They're creating their own jobs. I see them. Young people graduating from the Creative Arts department who are self-employed.
Okay.
Musicians, artists, filmmakers. You cannot help but be proud of them. But you know, Tony, I sometimes feel that we don't give this group enough. And I don't mean the university, as a society.
Yeah.
We don't put enough support, because there's a there's a sense that, it's the science and technology that drives society, which it does. But we also need the people in the creative side, the writers, and in today's world, the people who understand language and literature, and of course the creative arts. They build a more humanizing society. They make a society more complete.
Well, I use that as a justification, as part of the justification for this business which I run, the Government Information Services Limited.
Yeah.
Part of our job is the preservation of the heritage and the development of the arts and culture of the country.
Absolutely.
So, maybe at some point we need to get together and create a learning center out of here and to provide opportunities for your people on an ongoing basis. But what about the old staples? What about education and areas like that? Are they still predominant at UE?
Education is still, one of the things that happened, and this goes back into the 80s, 90s, they merged humanities and education. And looking back, I think that was a bad move.
Okay.
I think education as a faculty with its own vision, its own direction, own leadership would have been the right thing to do. As by the way, Tony, happened with agriculture.
Yeah.
They had merged agriculture with science.
Right.
And since I became principal, I have demerged it.
We have a caller. Hi.
Yeah.
Welcome. Hello.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Go on, please.
Good evening.
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah. Very well, actually.
Are you hearing me? Yes, very well. Excellent. I'm just wondering, we talked a little earlier about the 7 different
Faculties.
different departments.
Faculties,
at UE.
yeah.
Faculties. Yeah. Can you just enlighten us as to if political science would be one of those, and what are the steps in the evolution of someone who wants to get into politics as far as the faculties at UE?
Yes, well, political science is part of the Department of Government and
Right,
Politics.
yeah.
It has been created as a department within the Faculty of Social Sciences. So, to the caller, it's obviously a great place if somebody wants to get into politics and political leadership. It's a great training ground. But I think my own sense is while that is important for those who want to get into politics, I think broad training of a very broad multidisciplinary nature that is rooted in kinds of political theories would be my recommendation to a young person.
Clem, let me put it this way. A lot of your guys at UE have got into politics from every conceivable faculty.
That's correct.
Lloyd Best, Brinsley Samaru.
Well, I'm not sure I would call them politicians. They're great thinkers.
Yeah, but
They're
there are
great thinkers.
also a lot of them got into
Yeah.
active politics.
Yeah.
And they didn't necessarily come out
Of
the
a political school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And then, of course, there is, in today's world, we have the international relations programs,
Yeah.
master's programs in IR, undergraduate programs in IR. Look, we have some young members of parliament that are in politics. I mean, one of them that I truly admire is Stacey
Yeah.
Rupnarayan, and she did engineering.
Yeah, and you...
And then there's the Ramona Ramdial, she did environmental sciences.
Okay.
And these are some of the young people who I think are represent the future.
Ramnarayan, the Minister of Petroleum.
Kevin Ramnarayan, in petroleum engineering. And, I see good signs among these young people.
Some of the lawyers, too.
Well, yes, some of the lawyers. Well, law is also a good place if you want to get into politics. It's a good starting point. But the point I want to make, and I think you made it, that you want to get into politics, I don't think political science is a necessary starting block. I would say one of the starting blocks would be people who would like to change their societies and make it a better place, and governance that is for the people, and of course by the people, and a good profession with noble intentions. Good profession with noble intentions could get you there.
I'm with you on that, but let's look back at the sort of ethos of UWI and the extent to which UWI St. Augustine or the UWI system as a whole really influences change in the West Indies and in Trinidad and Tobago. Let me put it the way I mean it, right? It seems to me that, as in literature, you have this whole question of a mirror and a lamp. Is UWI a mirror just reflecting the society and reflecting the foibles and all the good and bad things of the society? But shouldn't it be a lamp, a light, showing us the path ahead of us? Not just reflecting, but leading. Shouldn't it be that, Dr.?
Well, I think it has to be both. While you're producing the kinds of knowledge and skills to meet today's expectations, the critical thought for today, but that is why you're a research university, because the researchers and scholars are not only focused on today, they are looking to the future. They're looking at new ways of doing things, for example. They're thinking deeply of things. They may be thinking of our political systems and how they should be. You may need to transform them so that we can have a governance that better meets our needs. I agree completely with you. And that is why the need for advanced training, graduate education, and certainly research at the doctoral level, for example, to help build the knowledge and skills and the critical thought for future action. We cannot only be concerned about today. As you heard, we had this forum. We were concerned about 2050. Where will the Caribbean be in 2050? And what we need to do now to get there.
Well, I would tell you what, my concern is that where the Caribbean will be in 2050 will continue to be talked about with not much being done if we go by the CARICOM example. But we come back to that. I want to tell people that the phone lines are open, 6758747, 6758749. Please call us. We're going for a break, and when we come back, we'll look at building a world-class university and where UE is heading in the future. Thank you very much. Hi, welcome back to Test Talk. We're talking about what happens to your kids after secondary school. What are the options? And my guest is Professor Clement Sankat, a Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University and Principal. Clem, we've been talking about the good old days and the medium days and the growth of the university. But you're talking here in this book, I'm not sure if we can catch it, but building a world-class university. Are you really building a world-class university, or is it same old, same old?
I'm convinced we're building a world-class institution. Let me say to you, Tony, universities have been here for hundreds of years.
Yeah, the 12th century.
12th century. And I think what the University of the West Indies, and I'm not talking about St. Augustine, coming out of small, developing island states has accomplished in 65 years is phenomenal. What we have done in 60 years. Oh, by the way, this year St. Augustine celebrates its 55th year.
Yeah.
So in the scheme of the age of universities, we are still a very young institution. But let me put it to you, we're living in a globalized era now. And I would like to have within this region a university that is as good as anywhere else in the world, so that my children, my grandchildren, your children...
I hate to interrupt you, But I like to have our callers on just to test us a little bit. And we'll come back and end with that.
Yeah.
But hi, welcome. Hello.
Thank you. Yes, it's me again. I deliberately did not come in because I wanted to give people a chance. But could you just give me what is a world-class university? I mean, what's the meaning of what do you think is a world-class university? I'll listen up here.
Well,
thank you.
We had a very interesting conversation a couple of years ago, just about 2 years ago, from a fellow named Salmi from the World Bank. And he spoke about building world-class institutions, world-class universities. I don't want to go into some specific areas, but you know some of the most desirable universities around the world that people would like to send their kids to. And they are actually globally ranked universities. There's all kinds of ranking schemes for universities these days. And those of us who are in education know what we're talking about. But there are 20,000, 30,000 universities in the world. Now, UWI is not in the top 500. But UWI is within that top 1,000. The top 1,000 universities globally, and there are 20,000, 30,000 or more of them. And there are some characteristics about what world-class universities do. They give you a world-class education.
Clem, we have to stop here.
All right.
Sadly enough. And I want to thank the caller for pushing us a little bit into that direction. I want to continue this conversation regardless at some point.
Yeah.
Because the concept of world-class university or world-class anything coming out of the region is exciting. It's challenging.
Absolutely.
And it is attainable, but it requires some changes that we need to discuss.
Absolutely.
So, folks, let me thank Professor Clement Sankat, our guest today on Test Talk. Let me also thank the Ministry of Tertiary Education for making these discussions possible. And to thank all of you who've been listening, and to our lady in particular who's been participating actively. Next time, tell me who you are off air, and I want to invite you on the program. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.